Give your plants the wrong nutrients at the wrong stage, and you can burn them, stunt their growth, or even ruin your entire harvest. The worst part? Most growers make this mistake without even realizing it, until it's too late. In today's video, we'll show you exactly what to feed, how much to feed, and when to feed your plants at every stage of growth, so you never make that mistake again. Welcome back to the Genetics Growers channel, the place where you learn how to grow better step by step without the guesswork. Before we get started, don't forget to check out our website, where you'll find a completely free blog packed with practical growing guides, pest management tips, the latest agricultural trends, and plenty of other resources to help you keep learning. You'll find the link in the description below. Fertilizing isn't just about feeding your plants every week. Each stage of growth has its own nutritional needs, and using the wrong formula at the wrong time is one of the most common reasons home growers end up with disappointing results. In this video, we'll walk through the 4 main stages of plant growth: germination and seedling, vegetative growth, flowering, and the final flushing stage. And at the end of the video, I'll share a downloadable reference chart designed specifically for indoor container growing with soil or potting mix, so you'll always have it handy. Let's get started. Stage 1. Germination and seedling. Everything starts with germination and the first few weeks of your seedling's life. At this stage, your plant is extremely delicate. And here's the first myth we need to bust. It doesn't need additional fertilizer. A high-quality, lightweight growing medium with some organic matter already contains enough nutrients to support the plant for its first 2 to 3 weeks. If you add concentrated fertilizer during this stage, you're much more likely to burn those young, fragile roots before they've had a chance to establish themselves. What does matter at this point is your irrigation water. Make sure it's at room temperature, free of chlorine, and has a pH between 6.0 and 6.5 if you're growing in a traditional soil or potting mix. If you'd like, you can also use a gentle root stimulator based on humic or fulvic acids to encourage healthy root development, but keep the dosage very low. The key to this stage is simple: less is more. Let your seedling develop its first true leaves before you even think about adding fertilizer. Stage 2. Vegetative growth. After those first few weeks, your plant enters the vegetative stage. This is when it develops the stem, branches, and foliage that will support its entire future harvest. The goal during this stage is to build a strong, healthy structure. The star nutrient here is nitrogen. Nitrogen is the primary driver of lush, green growth and the development of large, healthy leaves. Along with nitrogen, your plants need moderate amounts of phosphorus and potassium, plus essential micronutrients like magnesium, calcium, and iron. One of the best practices during this stage is to feed your plants with a diluted nutrient solution at every watering, rather than applying a heavy dose every couple of weeks. This approach, known as fertigation, helps maintain stable nutrient levels and avoids the spikes that can stress your plants. So, how do you know if something is wrong? If the lower leaves begin turning yellow and weak, your plant is likely lacking nitrogen. On the other hand, if you notice brown, burned leaf tips or leaves that become very dark green and curl downward into a claw shape, that's a classic sign of over-fertilization. For indoor container growing, a good target is an electrical conductivity, EC, between 1.2 and 1.6 milliseconds per centimeter, always adjusting based on how your plants respond. Remember, the feeding chart on the fertilizer bottle is just a guideline. Your plants always have the final say. Stage 3. The transition to flowering. As soon as your plant begins developing its first flower sites, it enters a short but critical stage, the transition, also known as pre-flowering. This is when you're preparing the plant for the changes ahead. The goal is to gradually reduce nitrogen while slowly increasing phosphorus and potassium. Phosphorus supports strong root development and healthy flower formation, while potassium strengthens the plant and improves its overall resilience. One of the most common mistakes growers make at this stage is switching fertilizers overnight. Instead, it's much better to gradually blend your vegetative nutrients with your flowering nutrients over the course of 7 to 10 days until the transition is complete. This prevents nutrient shock and helps your plants move smoothly into flowering, right when they need their energy the most. Stage 4. Flowering. Now we've reached the stage every grower looks forward to: flowering. This is where much of your final harvest is determined, so let's break it down into 3 phases: early flowering, mid-flowering, and late flowering. Early flowering. During the first couple of weeks, your plant still needs some nitrogen, but in much lower amounts than phosphorus and potassium. This is the right time to switch to a fertilizer specifically formulated for flowering. Many growers also introduce a bloom booster that's high in phosphorus to encourage the development of more flower sites. Mid-flowering. Next comes mid-flowering, which is usually the most nutrient-demanding stage of the entire growing cycle. Your flowers are rapidly increasing in size and density, making phosphorus and potassium the primary nutrients. At the same time, don't overlook calcium and magnesium. Deficiencies in these 2 nutrients are very common during this stage and often show up as discoloration or yellowing between the leaf veins. For indoor container grows, a good target is an EC between 1.6 and 2.0 milliseconds per centimeter, while always paying close attention to how your plants respond. If you notice burned leaf tips, it's a sign to reduce the nutrient concentration. If the plants look pale or flower development seems slow, you may need to increase it slightly. Late flowering. Finally, we reach late flowering, the last few weeks before harvest. At this point, it's time to reduce nitrogen to almost 0. Too much nitrogen this late in the cycle can negatively affect flavor and slow the ripening process. Potassium, however, remains important because it helps bulk up the flowers and supports greater resin production. A simple way to recognize that you've entered late flowering is by watching the pistils, those white hairs on the flowers. As the plant matures, they'll begin turning orange or brown. And if you examine the flowers with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, you'll notice the trichomes, those tiny crystal-like glands covering the buds, changing from clear to a milky white. That's your signal to start preparing for the final stage of the feeding cycle. Stage 5. The final flush. During the last 7 to 14 days before harvest, it's time for the final stage of the feeding cycle, the flush. At this point, you stop fertilizing completely and water your plants using only pH-adjusted water. The purpose of flushing is to allow the plant to use up the nutrients stored in its tissues while helping remove excess salts from the growing medium. The end result is a cleaner tasting harvest with a smoother smoke or burn after curing. So, how do you know when it's time to start? Go back to the trichomes and pistils we talked about a moment ago. When most of the trichomes have turned milky white, with some beginning to turn amber, and most of the pistils have changed color, that's the perfect time to begin your final flush. The most common fertilizing mistakes. Before we wrap up, let's quickly go over the most common fertilizing mistakes we see in the genetics growers community. The first, and by far the most common, is overfeeding. Always remember this golden rule. It's much easier to fix a mild nutrient deficiency than to recover a plant that's been burned by excess fertilizer. The second mistake is not checking the pH of your water and nutrient solution. Even if you're using the best fertilizers available, your plants won't be able to absorb those nutrients properly if the pH is outside the ideal range. And the third mistake is never flushing the growing medium between feedings. When you fertilize continuously without occasionally watering with plain water, mineral salts gradually build up in the substrate week after week. A watering with plain, pH-adjusted water every so often helps keep the growing medium balanced throughout the entire grow, not just during the final flush before harvest. We've put together a completely free, downloadable feeding chart designed with safe, universal nutrient ranges to help you feed your plants effectively while minimizing the risk of over-fertilization. That said, Remember that every plant is different. Some genetics require longer flowering periods, while others can handle higher or lower nutrient concentrations depending on their growth habits and metabolism. One important note: this feeding chart is designed specifically for indoor container growing using traditional soil or potting mix. It is not intended for hydroponic systems, since hydroponics requires different nutrient concentrations and irrigation schedules. You can download the chart using the link we've pinned in the description of this video. And with that, you now have a complete roadmap for feeding your indoor plants through every stage of growth, from germination all the way to the final flush. Be sure to download our free feeding chart using the link in the description. And if you'd like to keep learning, visit our blog where you'll find practical growing guides, pest management tips, and the latest trends in agriculture, all explained step by step. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the Genetics Growers channel, and let me know in the comments, what stage is your grow in right now? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video here on Genetics Growers.